Hello, Jambo, Karibu. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. Alright guys, so today's video I will be doing another book review, and guess which book I'll be reviewing? Yes, In the Belly of the Congo by Blaise Ndala. I don't know guys if you watched my video when I was speaking about how excited I was to read about this book, simply because it's a Congolese author and he's from my country, but I've also found out that he lives currently in Ottawa, in Canada, where I live. So small world, but yeah. So yeah, I'll be doing a book review about In the Belly of the Congo, giving you a little bit of my thoughts, what I found out, and maybe rate the book. I mean, I don't really do ratings, but I think it's fun. I really need to study the characteristics of rating books. What makes a book a 5 out of 5 versus 1 out of 5. So before we even get into it, I simply wanted to take just maybe 1 or 2 minutes to basically say thank you to you guys, my viewers, my subscribers. I want to say thank you so much. I started this in January, not really knowing. I didn't know how I was gonna be accepted by some of you guys who already are subscribed to other booktubers and things like that, but you have obviously encouraged me by not only watching the videos, by liking the videos, but also just being subscribed to my channel means the world to me. Now, I'm very passionate about books, and I am where I've always wanted to be, here presenting you these book contents, and I'm so happy for the fact that you guys have been validating what I've been doing. And also I have like 200 subscribers. It is, for me, that's a milestone. I am so happy. Like, the way I think about it is like I'm in a room full of people, like 200 people, and they're actually listening to me. So thank you. Okay, so having said that, I want to get into the book review. So the story is set during the 1939 all the way to 2005. And now let's get to the beautiful story of the Princess Chala Nyota Muwelo. She was born in 1939 in the region of Kasai, and she was born to the king called Kene Kwete III. This story, I found it very endearing. It was a lovely story, but it had a lot of triggering things for me. And I will explain as I explain a little bit the story. I promise I will not spoil the story for you. I'll just give you, as I said, my review and some of the things I found interesting about this book without spoiling the story for you. We're talking about Chala Nyota, and she's 13 years old. By the time the story really takes off, she's 13 years old. She's going to this school in Luwebo, and in that school, it is a school run by nuns, and it's a Christian school, so obviously she is indoctrinated within the Catholic teachings. And she also has a friend. They are friends, Kizita and Princess Chala, and at some point they're outside the school, a bit further from the school compound, and there's this white older man, not too old, but like maybe late 20s, early 30s, I believe. And he comes and he meets the two girls, but his eyes are set on Chala Nyota, and he looks at her and he tells her that they will meet again later on in years, basically. And obviously Nyota is kind of affected. She won't stop thinking about it, and fast forward, years go by, and what do you know, she meets this man again, and his name is René Comer. He's obviously a Belgian man of white skin, and there is an unwritten rule in the Belgian Congo, which is there is not to be no interracial mixing. Okay, so black and white is a no-no. during those 1930s, I guess 1940s. So anyway, so you can just imagine René and Chala Nyota start an illicit affair. And as you may know, guys, when you start something as an affair, it never lasts too long. Something is bound to explode. You're bound to be discovered, and that's what happened with Chala Nyota. Her friend Kizita, she one day just kind of snapped, and in front of the whole school or the nuns, she called her friend names, calling her like all these names I don't want to say, and obviously the story got out and it got to her father, Kene Kwete the third. And you can just imagine, because it was so forbidden, the fury of Nyota's dad was to such extent that when Nyota went back to the Kasai, to the Kuba kingdom, her aunt, before she even met her dad, her aunt and her mom were like pleading with her to leave. Like, you can't stand his fury, just leave. So she was meant to be exiled. Like, she was exiled from her own kingdom. So obviously, where's she gonna go? She's gonna run to René Comer, who was the person who even started this whole thing with her. So she runs to him, and he's like, okay, what am I gonna do? Because they did not anticipate. I'm not sure what they were thinking, but apparently they did not anticipate the tomorrow. You know, they were, I guess, young and just living for today and now. He's like, I can't take you in. So he sends her off with his friend, who's Marc de Groof. And that name is important, guys. I will tell you later. So he sends her off with Marc de Groof to Léopoldville. That's a bit further from where they are initially, Luebo. So he sends her to Léopoldville. And Marc de Groof has this villa where it's in the area of like white people who are rich. You know, it's only white people who are rich who live in that area. And the black people who are found there are usually the servants. They're servants or slaves. I didn't even know that the term slaves was still being used in Congo during that time. Like, so, I'm sorry.
You should wear an African attire to present this story.
This attire? You don't like it? 1 second. Ta-da! Oh, okay. So I thought it'd be befitting to only speak about Princess Kwete in, you know, an appropriate African attire. I know you can't really see there, but yeah. Okay. So now she's living as a princess in the slaves' quarters at the villa of Marc de Groof. And I just want to read you guys just a little excerpt of what it says here. The white man is destined for the white woman, the negress for the negro. This parallel truth, both simple and clear-cut, was supposed to ensure sexual peace and thereby peace pure and simple. So you can just imagine, as I said, this whole thing with René and Chala was an absolute disaster from the get-go, and they knew. While she's living there, she meets this other guy called Akwesa Kolosoy. And Akwesa Kolosoy, he's important to be mentioned simply because he's the brother of a known artist during that time. And that known artist was Wendo Kolosoy. He was very popular around the Congo River and amongst Belgian people and the Congolese people, simply because he came up with this song, like a viral song, and it was called Marie-Louise. I actually went to hear it, guys. Marie-Louise. Okay. And so yeah, so she's living with this brother, and he's basically teaching her about life, because you got to remember, this time she's 18 years old. She's very young. She's all by herself. She has no idea how she's basically gonna live, you know. And at some point they go to a party, like a club. It's like, again, a Negro club, obviously. And I actually found a picture that said a Negro club during that time. And I mentioned this just because it just tells you of kind of time Chala lived in, you know, where there was still such segregation, such racism. So as I'm saying, so she does meet him. They go to this nightclub, they're partying, and you can tell that Wendo Kolosoi, he's the king of the night. And by the way, guys, during that time, we had what we called rumba, the Congolese rumba. And I just found out that it was actually brought to Cuba. It was originated from the Congo River, but it was brought to Cuba, I guess, by people who were transported from that region all the way to Cuba and brought back. So Cubans and Congolese, just remember we have a link together. All right, guys, so I don't want to extend this story, but fast forward, something happens between Marc de Groof and Chala. He's obviously trying to do some stupid, and she also does something to protect herself, which basically puts him in a situation where he has to go see a healer. And don't want to get into much details. She eventually runs away, and he finds her at some point. So because of that, he decides to ship her all the way to Brussels. Hence where the story really takes off, guys. Then the reason of the whole Expo 1958. Now let me get into the Expo 1958, guys. So that Expo was an exposition, a world fair, basically. It was for the whole world to see how the Belgian people Christianized the Congolese and basically civilized them. So they were supposed to recreate a village from the Congo and bring it to the Brussels. And to do that, they had to bring real Congolese people. So I forget the numbers, but it was something like over 200 of Congolese people. Some actually perished, and some made it, including Nyota Chala Nyota, a princess, was brought and exposed to the world. They were in cages, guys. When I say in cages, they were in cages. Listen to this, guys. It's important. It bears mentioning. The Congolese village filled with Bantu and their pygmy guests is seen straight from the equatorial jungle, where they could see for themselves how far these natives have come thanks to Belgium, from the dark shadows of the Kurds era to the present day, and understand why our Christian civilizing mission in Central Africa will remain one of the greatest achievements, first and foremost, of the builder King Leopold II, then of our united people and of the whole world. There, you have it. They said it. And that was the whole point of bringing Chala and her Congolese fellows to the Brussels Fair, for that reason. Just sit on that. And you know, at some point, guys, in the story, there are these white kids. I think they are German. I believe they are German. They come to one of those expo event, and some of the kids start hurling things at the people in the cage by saying, "Go back to your country, you monkey." Can you just believe the humiliation of hearing that, and especially by kids? Like, how demeaning and how low can you feel after such, like, you're a princess, but even besides being a princess, but like you're a person, a human being, and that's how you're being treated. And obviously after such event, Chala is obviously beside herself, so she decided to tell Robert Dumont, who was the organizer of the expo, and she decides to tell him that, you know what, I've had it. bring me back home, pay me my dues, like I want to go home. And so after that, something happens and we don't hear about Chala Nyota for a while. Now we meet her niece, and her niece is the daughter of Chala's brother, obviously. And she is sent to Brussels to study. That's around 2005. But at the same time, since her grandfather hadn't seen Chala Nyota ever since she was exiled, so he sends her to Brussels. Basically, because throughout the years they were looking for her, and they had heard that she had been sent to Brussels. So she goes onto this mission to find her aunt, who shared the same name with her. So she's her Ndoi, or she's the Ndoi of her aunt, because they have the same name, which is Nyota. She comes to Brussels, and in Brussels she will meet different people. She will also meet Francis Dumont. So if you recall, I just mentioned the name a few minutes ago. Robert Dumont is the organizer of that Expo in 1958. And now in 2005, Nyota, the niece, meets Francis Dumont. As you guess, is the son, right? At some point, Francis Dumont brings back some items that were left by her dad to Nyota, and tells her, these are the items that were left. I hope it helps you. While she's searching for her aunt, and basically to find out what could have happened to her. And I also want to just give you like another excerpt, guys, because it's important. She goes and meets Hilde, who was the sister of Marc de Groof, because Marc de Groof actually passed away. By the time he had shipped Chala, a few years after, he passed away. So years later, the niece finds out that Hilde, the sister, is still alive. So she goes to meet her. And this woman just decides to tell her all kinds of stories, including one of her love life, a story. And this is how she describes the love of her life. My heart beat only for the Negroes, and for one in particular. And guess what? It was Akwesa. Akwesa Kolosoi, who was the brother of the artist. And like, what are the chances, right? Years after. And then she says, I asked Felix Akwesa to play a little Roomba so we could shake a leg in the dining room, glued to each other like Negroes and Negresses all over town. Yo, that word, I just can't. And then she literally stops herself at some point, and then she's like, oh, excuse me, we don't call them Negro these days. It's what, blacks? I wanted to also, lastly, before I conclude this review, there's another part where Nyota the niece meets this professor in Brussels. And this is a professor, guys. And at some point, he's brought, they bring him like specimen of Congolese warriors, I guess. And here's what he says. And this is a professor teaching a class to like a multitude of white and probably blacks, because I'm sure it's diverse by that time in 2005. The specimen's exceptionally wide biorbital angle is categorical proof of its inferiority relative to other human races. And what is scientifically true for this warlord, distinguished by his suicidal bravura, is naturally true as well for all those of his species who have not undergone physical modifications as a result of crossbreeding. This is how we were presented to the world, as being inferior based on whatever they said scientifically, right? Like, guys, when I say this book was triggering, and it's actually a fiction book. Like, the author made this into a fiction literature. But boy, oh boy, certain things are obviously based on facts. And I was just like, deep breath, deep breath. I will finally conclude my story with one of this wise words spoken by the grandfather, Kena Kwete. He says the following: for as long as the earth has been our shared home, people have met, sometimes in joy, sometimes in pain, and sometimes caught up in happiness, sometimes under the yoke of barbarity. It's not the wounds they inflict upon each other that matter the most once time finally lifts the veil from our illusions. What matters is that the children who come after learn to build a less repugnant world than the one they inherited. I love that. I love that. So, with that in mind, I thought we cannot repair what has passed. Let bygones be bygones. But what matters is the way we move forward, what we will take from all these stories. And that's why I love reading these books, whether fiction, whether factual, whether studies, what I just love to discover these kind of stories, because it's a way for us to learn from the past and not repeat the mistakes or the things that were done, so that we can live in a better world, but also leave a better world for our children. It is important. So thank you, Blaise Ndala, for this book. So there you have it, guys. That was my little book review on In the Belly of the Congo. I hope it's not too long, but I had a wonderful time reading this book. I hope you will pick it up and let me know if you do, what you think. And I hope we can share some views on this book. Okay, guys, so I'm signing out. This video is turning out to be too long. So, all right. So if you haven't done it already, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in my next video.